Okay, thank you. The House will come to order. Members will be at their seats. The clerk has opened the roll. You may record your presence. Please rise and give your attention to our guest chaplain, Representative Johnson, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Representative Wheeler.
Gracious God, we have so much for which to be thankful. We are thankful to be here. We are thankful to be part of your kingdom. May we continually pray, thy kingdom come, not some kingdom of our making. Thy will, not my will, be done. We are reminded in so many ways that our power is insufficient. Help us remember that your grace is sufficient. Help us to receive your grace and to give grace to one another. Today we pray especially for our sister Eunice, that your healing hand is upon her in Houston as well as at home. We pray for the Estes family as they grieve, and for safe travel for all who go to share with them in mourning and in celebrating a life well lived. In our journey together to the stars, we can only make it with your great love and guidance. When hate, envy, or deceit wells within or around us, help us to instead reflect your love, understanding, and truth. Amen.
Has every member had the opportunity to record their presence? The clerk will close the roll and record the attendance. Speaker recognizes Representative Jennings on a point of personal privilege.
Yeah, you're good. That's good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to begin my remarks today by introducing some special guests that we have with us. We are fortunate and unfortunate both, I guess, to have with us the family of Representative Leonard Mastroni. Joining us today are Leonard's wife, Linda, his son, James, James's wife, Erin, Amanda and Mark Sizemore, granddaughter and grandson. And I want to be sure to recognize Sarah Mastroni Fanninsteel, in particular, Leonard's daughter, who's unable to be here today, but I expect through the miracle and magic of technology, is watching from Breckenridge, Colorado. Now, if you had to be somewhere watching, Breckenridge would be a pretty good place to be watching, I think. So we want to say hello to Sarah and wish her well. In addition to that, I know that the link for this proceeding has been shared among many of Leonard's family that live on the East Coast, and we're happy that you can join us as well. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the memory of our colleague and friend, Representative Leonard Mastroni. The priorities of our life demonstrate who we are. Leonard was defined by his faith, family, and friends. Leonard enjoyed a deeply personal relationship and unyielding faith in his God. He always devoted to his family in both good and difficult times, and he was a true and faithful friend. Leonard committed his life to public service. His career of service included serving as a police officer with the Denver, Colorado Police Department. Motorcycle cop, imagine that. He also served in Kansas as a special agent in charge of the Central Kansas Drug Task Force. He was a district magistrate judge in Rush County of the 23rd Judicial District for the largest part of his adult service. He served as a Rush County commissioner and as state representative for the 117th House District. That's where most of you had the opportunity to meet and get to know Leonard. Leonard and his wife of 51 years, Linda, were blessed with 4 children, Sean, Sheila, Sarah, and James, and 3 grandchildren, Mark, Amanda, and Sutton. Leonard and Linda experienced the greatest fear of any parent when they lost 2 of their 4 children. Sean and Sheila. Leonard's faith never wavered. He never asked the question, why me? He placed his faith in God and accepted that God's will be done here on earth. Representative Mastroni was an advocate for his district. He was a champion for the mental health and correction programs located on the Larned campus. Leonard understood that mental health was a serious and expanding need for our state, and he honored the service of the people who served this population who are in need of help. The passing of Leonard on September 30th, 2020 was honored by the governor through her order directing that flags be flown at half-staff until the day of his funeral, October the 6th. This was a fitting and most deserved public recognition of his dedicated service to the people of Kansas. I've asked to join me this morning Representative Wheeler and Representative Schreiber because each of them spent 2 years as office mates with Leonard, and I call upon them to assist me in making presentations to the family. First, I'll call upon Representative Wheeler and ask that you present to the family the first of 2 items. By way of description, body, this is a framed 2 pictures. The top picture is one of Leonard, and to either side of the photograph of Leonard are the lapel pins that were worn during his service in the Kansas House. Immediately below Leonard's photograph is a photograph of the state capitol with the flags being flown at half-staff, taken during the week between his death and his funeral. On the second item that we would like to present on behalf of the House, I call upon Representative Schreiber, and we'll describe what this is. This is the flag that flew above the Capitol on the day of Leonard's funeral. Along with it is a certificate of authenticity issued by the Secretary of State indicating that this was the state flag flown above the Capitol on October 6, 2020. You don't stop. We miss Leonard, and we thank his family for sharing him with us. Mr. Speaker, I would ask that my words be spread across the journal and that the body join me in thanking and honoring the family.
Without objection, so ordered. Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill number 2401 by the Committee on Appropriations, an act concerning the Department of Corrections, authorizing the Secretary of Corrections to enter agreements for public-private partnerships for projects for new or renovated buildings at correctional institutions for education, skills building, and spiritual need program. House Bill number 2402 by the Committee on Appropriations, an act concerning property taxation relating to valuation of property, excluding hypothetical leased fee and the determination of fair market value. House Bill number 2403 by the Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning sexually oriented businesses, crimes, punishment, and criminal procedure, prohibiting certain acts, creating criminal penalties for violations. House Bill number 2404 by the Committee on Appropriations, an act concerning the Kansas Public Employees Retirement System relating to death and long-term disability benefits, providing a moratorium on employer contributions to the State Insurance Reserve Fund.
Messages from the Senate. The clerk will read.
Announcing passage of Senate Bill 67 and 118. Senate Bill number 67 by the Committee on Transportation, an act concerning motor vehicles relating to all-terrain vehicles and recreational off-highway vehicles, expanding the definitions thereof. Senate Bill number 118 by the Committee on Local Government, an act concerning municipalities relating to the dissolution of special districts and assumption of responsibilities by cities or counties.
Final action on bills and concurrent resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill Number 2007 by Representative Prell, an act concerning motor carriers relating the State Corporation Commission's regulation of motor carriers, updating and eliminating certain procedures for certificates of convenience and necessity and certificates of public service, revising certain laws to conform to federal regulation.
Body, this is final action. Members will be at their seats. This constitutes final action on House Bill 2007. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Representative Carlin votes aye. Representative Bergquist votes aye. Representative Highland votes aye. Representative Ballard votes aye. Representative Clark votes aye. Representative Lehan votes aye. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 122 having voted in favor and 0 against the passage of House Bill 2007, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill Number 2070 by the Committee on Taxation, an act concerning post-secondary education relating to certain private post-secondary educational institutions, acceptable methods of payment, credit card surcharges.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2070. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Every member had an opportunity to record their vote. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Seeing none, 119 having voted in favor and 3 against the passage of House Bill 2070, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill Number 2076 by the Committee on Judiciary, an act concerning criminal procedure relating to sureties, surrender of obligor by surety, release of surety, requiring delivery to county where the complaint subject to the bond was filed, adding a definition of custodial officer of the court.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2076. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 122 having voted in favor and 0 against the passage of House Bill 2076, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2087 by the Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning administrative rules and regulations relating to the review by the Director of the Budget.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2087. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Every member had an opportunity to record their vote. Representative Anderson votes aye. Representative Landwehr votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Seeing none, 109 having voted in favor and 13 against the passage of House Bill 2087, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2096 by the Committee on Judiciary, an act concerning the Kansas Open Records Act relating to exceptions to disclosure, public websites that identify home addresses or home ownership, restricting access to identifying information of employees of the Department of Corrections, local correctional officers or local detention officers, employees of the judicial branch, employees of municipal court and administrative hearing officers.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2096. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Representative Gartner votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Seeing none, 122 having voted in favor and 0 against the passage of House Bill 2096, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2104 by the Committee on Taxation, an act concerning sales taxation relating to exemptions, modifying the exemption for construction materials for educational institutions.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2104. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Representative Clayton votes aye. Representative Highland votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Representative Garber on an explanation of vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the exemption on HB 2104 is for a worthy cause, I cannot support it. In 2019, sales tax exemptions totaled $7.8 billion. That same year, the state of Kansas had sales tax revenue of $2.5 billion. We continue to erode our sales tax base for the benefit of some while passing the burden of funding of our ever-growing government to the others. I long for the day when we have a fair tax system for every taxpayer. Mr. Speaker, I vote no on HB 2104.
Are there any further explanations of vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Neighbor votes no. Representative Carlin votes no. Are there any further changes of vote? Seeing none. 114 having voted in favor and 8 against the passage of House Bill 2104, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2115 by the Committee on Children and Seniors, an act concerning the legislature relating to children and minors, the safety and well-being of children in the child welfare system in the state of Kansas, establishing the Joint Committee on Child Welfare System Oversight, prescribing duties and membership thereof, requiring an annual report of the legislature.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2115. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Representative Prahl votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Representative Jacobs on an explanation of vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I vote yes on HB 2115. However, I do not believe more government is the answer to the broken state of Kansas families. Yes, we do need hearings, open-door policies, and strict government accountability with oversight for all government agencies. Still importantly, we need better educational teaching in societal living, family living, personal accountability, and personal responsibility with respect according to the Word of God. Without exercising moral traditional values, Kansas will continue to look to government and not God and common sense for individual freedoms, answers, and solutions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any further explanations of vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 118 having voted in favor and 4 against the passage of House Bill 2115, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2158 by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act concerning public health relating to the Department of Health and Environment, Division of Public Health, powers, duties, and functions of the Advisory Committee on Trauma and the Statewide Trauma System Regional Council, continuing in existence the authority to conduct closed session meetings and keep records privileged.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2158. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Representative Owens votes aye. Representative Ralph votes aye. Representative Wolfmore votes aye. Representative Arnberger votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 121 having voted in favor and 1 against the passage of House Bill 2158, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2172 by the Committee on Water, an act concerning water relating to the Division of Water Resources of the Department of Agriculture, modifying multi-year flex accounts, base average usage calculation and fees, permitting alternative base average usage calculation and prorated terms.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2172. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Every member had an opportunity to record their vote. Representative Owens votes aye. Clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 122 having voted in favor and 0 against the passage of House Bill 2172, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2178 by the Committee on Local Government, an act concerning cities relating to the vacation of certain blocks in the original town plat in the City of Americus.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2178. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Representative Owens votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 121 having voted in favor and 1 against the passage of House Bill 2178, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2187 by the Committee on Taxation, an act establishing the First-Time Homebuyer Savings Account Act relating to financial institutions, providing for addition and subtraction modifications for contributions to first-time homebuyer savings accounts under the Kansas Income Tax Act.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2187. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none. 119 having voted in favor and 3 against the passage of House Bill 2187, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Speaker recognizes the Majority Leader for a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the purpose of considering those items under the heading of General Orders.
Heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Speaker appoints Representative Humphreys to chair the Committee of the Whole.
Good morning, body. We will just go right into business. The first item of business is House Bill 2114. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2114, the chair recognizes Representative Penn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were committee amendments, and I move for the adoption of the committee report.
You have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes and the committee report is adopted. Please continue.
Madam Chair, I rise before the body today to present House Bill 2114, an act providing for the establishment of the Kansas Senior Care Task Force. This bill had one amendment in committee, and that amendment added a representative of the Alzheimer's Association and a consumer of the Kansas Senior Services to the task force membership. There were no opponents. House Bill 2114 creates a task force to study myriad issues affecting the treatment and protection of, as well as the delivery of services to, our Kansas senior population. The task force would study the following topics: provision of care for Kansas seniors dealing with Alzheimer's, dementia, and other age-related mental health conditions, the administration of antipsychotic medications to adult care home residents, safeguards to prevent the abuse, neglect, and exploitation of seniors in Kansas, adult care home surveys and fines, the funding and implementation of the Kansas Senior Care Act, and finally, the Kansas Senior Daycare Resources. The task force would be authorized to meet in an open meeting at any time and at any place in the state upon the call of the chairperson. In this bill, we have 22 members of the task force that have been the task force will include 22 members, and this includes 6 legislative members based on their committee positions, various representatives of the oversight agencies, providers of senior services, a representative from the AARP, the Alzheimer's Association representative, and a consumer selected by the Speaker of the silver-haired legislature. The task force will convene and report back to the legislature in January of 2022 and January of 2023. And the task force will sunset June 30th of 2023. Proponent testimony for this bill was provided by the AARP, the Kansas Healthcare Association, the Kansas Center for Assisted Living, Leading Age Kansas, and a private citizen. Neutral testimony for this bill was provided by the Kansas Long-Term Care Ombudsman, the Alzheimer's Association, and Kansas Advocates for Better Care. The fiscal note shows that this bill, as introduced, would incur an estimated $35,027 in general fund expenditures for member compensation and other costs. KDADS indicates that any increased expenditures for their staff could be absorbed within the existing agencies. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be happy to stand for any questions.
Does any member desire to speak to the bill? The chair recognizes Representative Owens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering if the carrier of the bill might answer a question or two for me. So rumor has it you might have had a long-lasting career in the U.S. Armed Forces. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Well, I'm just wondering how up-to-date you are on the Armed Forces, my friend. So can you tell me what the newest branch of the U.S. Armed Forces are and when it was established?
Sir, I believe it was the Space Force. I am not sure of the date. I apologize.
Well, I was really hoping you'd be up on it because I was curious who the commander was and what purpose it served and which branch it fell under. And, well, let me ask you one more question. Is this the first bill you've carried?
Yes, sir, it is.
Lottie, would you join me in welcoming this young man to the Kansas Legislature? Thank you.
The chair recognizes Representative Kincannon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first-time carrier did a great job of describing the bill, and I'm just wondering if you'd stand for a couple questions from me. Do you understand what a gray envelope is? You understand what a gray envelope is?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Madam Chair.
This committee is going to deal with the health care of seniors. Do you know what it is that that pays for most of senior care in nursing homes?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know who pays for most of senior care?
It would be the state, the taxpayers.
Medicaid. Yeah. Yes, that would be Medicaid. Have you ever heard of Medicaid expansion?
Only in the darkest circles, ma'am.
That's where I'm always at. So that's not what this is. When this bill has been around for a couple years, and when we redrafted it, the years got changed for when the task force needed to report to the legislature. The years got changed, but the dates didn't. So I just have a technical amendment that, I'll hand it in. That corrects that. Instead of saying specific dates, it's general.
The amendment appears short. The clerk will read.
I handed it in.
Page 3, line 21, by striking January 13th, 2022, and inserting the beginning of 2022 regular session of the legislature in line 22 by striking January 11th, 2023, and inserting the beginning of the 2023 regular session of the legislature.
Does any member wish to speak to the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Kincannon, you may close.
I close on my amendment.
You have heard the motion by Representative Kincannon to amend. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. Is there any further discussion on the bill? The House Representative, the The chair recognizes Representative Owsley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do think the carrier of the bill did a good job describing this, and I would just add that this bill reflects the Child Welfare Task Force that we know put in a lot of hours and a lot of hard work with a lot of experts around the table to bring this body a lot of recommendations to improve child welfare in the state of Kansas, and I think we could do the same for our seniors. So I encourage you to support this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Penn, you may close.
And I would thank the distinguished last speaker for all of the bipartisanship in committee and the hard work of getting this bill out of committee. I really appreciate the hard effort. We're proud of and owe much to our senior citizenry, for it was from their arms that we drew strength. It is from their hearts that we felt love. It is from their example that we learned to persevere even in difficult times, as we've seen of late. And now it's upon their shoulders and their bedrock values that we stand. And with that, Madam Chair, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it report the House Bill 2114 as amended favorably for passage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Committee, you have heard the motion by Representative Penn to report HB 2114 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion passes. The next item of business is HB 2124. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2124, the chair recognizes Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Chair. HB 2124 passed favorably out of the Education Committee without any amendments.
You may continue.
House Bill 2124 is technical in nature. Its purpose is twofold. First, some very brief background information. In 1922, Cleveland University, Kansas City, was founded as a post-secondary institution teaching its students how to be chiropractors. Originally in Kansas City, Missouri, the school remained in Missouri for its first 86 years. Then in 2008, the campus was moved to Overland Park, Kansas. In 2017, a statute was signed into law that enabled the university to operate as an educational clinic, but required CUKC to be approved by the Board of Regents. That statute was in conflict with a previous statute. The bottom line is CUKC should not be subject to the regulatory oversight by the Kansas Board of Regents. HB 2124 will resolve the conflict between the two statutes. The other thing that this bill will do is clarify that students at CUKC could do their internships with off-campus clinical sites that Cleveland University, Kansas City has a partnership with. There were two proponents for this bill. There was no neutral or opponent testimony. The fiscal note is no fiscal effect. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Does any member desire to speak to the bill? The chair recognizes Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The carrier of the bill did an excellent job of presenting the bill to the House. It did pass unanimously through the Education Committee. It's a good bill. It gives more opportunities for some of our students in the healing arts, opportunities for internships and for better training and so on. So I would highly encourage your support for this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there further discussion? The chair recognizes Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the carry of the bill, please stand for a question or two.
Let's rock.
I noticed there's multiple sections where the word which was crossed out and the word that was replaced with it. Could you please define the word that?
Pass.
I did not ask how you were going to vote on this bill, sir. One other question. Is the university aware that there's already a city named Cleveland, and is there any pending lawsuits that might challenge the, plagiarizing of the use of their name?
Seeing as Cleveland, Ohio is a well-known city and the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, one would assume, as I would, that yes, the school is aware of the existence of Cleveland, and hopefully with the passage of this bill, there would be an opportunity to move said Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to Kansas.
I am all for that, my friend, and this is your first bill, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Colleagues, please join me in welcoming Mr. Representative Sanders to the House of Representatives.
The chair recognizes Representative Wagner.
You're not going to get off that easily, Representative. So we know you're pretty new around here. I just wonder if you're excited about having a bill about the healing arts, if that was exciting.
Mr. Representative, having had great results from chiropractic care, the world needs more chiropractors, so I can answer in the affirmative. I am excited about a bill for the healing arts and for chiropractic in particular.
Well, I've been doing some research about you, and I learned that you have a hidden talent, that you've been an AM talk radio host for many years on 1150 KSAL in Salina. So what was the name of your talk show that you had on KSAL?
I had two shows. One of them was Friendly Fire, and the other one was the Clark Sanders Show.
And Representative Sanders, is your talent on loan from God?
Well, seeing as one person who had their talent on loan from God returned to God yesterday, I would say that yes, now my talent is on loan from God.
I do want to alert you that there is some other hidden radio talent in this House, and I've heard rumors that the Speaker is going to get us a broadcast license. We're going to have an AM station. We're going to have the booming voice of Ken Rogers doing ag news and traffic and sports in the morning. I've heard that the golden throat of Blaine Finch is going to follow up with legal advice, lifestyle questions, and marriage counseling, and helping us with germaneness challenges if we're talking with our spouse. And then I heard that Dan Hawkins is going to have a political call-in show for 3 hours where we can vent on the issues of the day. In a bipartisan fashion, there's also a rumor that it's going to have an AM station affiliated with it, kind of an NPR-type station with the John Carmichael show. It's called Constant Comment by Carmichael. The show will run 24/7. It never stops, ever.
And Representative,
Again, congratulations on doing your first bill. Everybody's already thanked you, and so I'm just going to ask you to step right up to the golden House of Representatives microphone and continue.
Well, having been a talk show for several years, it might be fun to return to my disc jockey roots. And so by way of audition, I'm going to say, I'm not saying what I'll be playing, but I'm told it's gold. If I'm lying, I'm dying. So wrap your mittens around your kitten and away we go. Because remember, when you're having fun, you're number one.
Body, I would like to remind you that we don't use names from the well. So just a reminder. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Representative Sanders, you may close.
And I apologize for that breach of House etiquette, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, House Bill 2124 is good legislation. It is necessary legislation, and I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports HB 2124 favorably for passage.
Body, you have heard the motion by Representative Sanders to report House Bill 2124 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. The next item of business is House Bill 2155. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2155, the chair recognizes Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were no committee amendments. HB 2155 would codify into law minimal reporting requirements for chemical spills. Just to use an example, under current law, if someone were to just spill a gallon of paint, they're technically required to report that to the KDHE. This bill would loosen some of those requirements, and it would allow individuals or businesses that had a small chemical spill to just go ahead and clean up that spill without having to report it to the KDHE. If an individual or business has a larger spill and they don't follow the proper protocols and they don't report it and they don't do what they're supposed to do, there is a $5,000 fine per incident, but this bill caps that at $15,000. And so under this bill, no individual or business would have to pay a fine of more than $15,000. Under this bill, the definition of pollutant would state that the term does not include animal or crop waste or manure on an agricultural operation. Also, the definition of release would not include any emission, discharge, spilling, leaking that occurs as a part of normal agricultural activities. Subsection C would allow the Secretary to provide guidance, oversight, and assistance for cleanup and response of pollutant release, take necessary action to perform a cleanup if the responsible person fails to do so, perform cleanup in an emergency. The bill states that when a pollutant is released, the person responsible for the release is responsible for the cleanup and the repayment of costs incurred by the department for cleanup. Proponents of the bill were 1OK, Kansas Cooperative Council, Kansas Department of Health and Environment, Kansas Livestock Association, Kansas Grain and Feed Association, Kansas Agribusiness Retailers Association, Renew, Kansas Biofuels Association, and then neutral was Kansas Independent Oil and Gas Association. At this time, I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Does any member desire to speak to the bill? The chair recognizes Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would the carry the bill stand for a question or two, please? I think the burning question on all of our minds is when you talk about chemical spills, would coffee qualify? If someone were to spill their coffee? Probably not. Okay, all right. Have you also been taught about yelling when you're at the well speaking? No, sir. No yelling. All right, that's rude. Regarding your name, I wanted to ask, were you actually a fair child, or were you a mean child, or were you a pretty rock-solid child?
I think I was a very fair child.
I would agree. We appreciate your work and your efforts on this bill, and welcome to the Kansas Legislature.
For further discussion, the chair recognizes Representative Carlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things. The carrier of the bill did a fine job of describing the bill. He told you all the things you need to know. It's been around for about 3 years, and there's been some cooperation made between different associations and the Department of Ag and KDHE. What I need to say to my caucus is that my bill brief had an error, and it does state that KCC was a proponent, and the KCC was actually an association, not the Kansas Corporation Commission. So that was a mistake on our part, and I apologize for that. The thing that I think that we dwelt on in committee were two things. We dwelt on the fact that there was going to be rules and regs would be written to put this in place. And I was kind of wanting them to spell out what the rules and regs were going to say, but we didn't get there. Also, we talked about the fees and the fines and whether they were appropriate. But the thing that we did not discuss a lot about was also one of the things that has been negotiated, and that was the definition of pollutant. And the definition of pollutant will now expressly exclude animal or crop waste or manure on an agricultural operation or facility. And release is also defined to exclude any emission, discharge, spillage, or leakage that occurs in abnormal agricultural activity. I don't know quite how far that goes. I don't know if the carrier of the bill can answer a question to describe. Can you restate the question? Yes, I'll state a question, which I really haven't done. The pollutant and the exclusion of animal or crop waste, does that have an effect on nearby water supplies? If we had too much discharge from a CAFU or a confined animal unit?
I don't believe it would have any effect because I don't think this is really changing current law. If somebody has a different view or opinion, but I don't think that's really changing current law.
I think that's my question, and you'll have to look at it and see, but it is in italics. It is a definition change. So that was my concern. So I'll leave it up to the body. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
For further discussion,
Madam
the
Chair.
chair recognizes Representative Collins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would the carrier of the bill stand for a couple questions? You mentioned a can of paint. Under this bill, a person, if they spilled a can of paint, they wouldn't have to report that as a spill. What is the minimum amount of a spill that would be covered under this where a person would have to report?
The specific amounts aren't included in the bill because that's something that's going to be included in regulations by the KDHE, and they'll put those regulations out as soon as possible, but the specific amounts are not included in the bill.
All right, thank you. And I was just wondering, did your office assistant help you in preparation of this, of carrying this bill today?
She didn't do a whole lot to help me.
Okay, and so would you say she is a good office assistant?
Yeah, she does a great job.
Okay, well, I was just wondering, a couple years ago, the representative from Lansing and I had an office assistant, and we've just had a hard time keeping one for the past couple years. We're on our fourth one now. Seems like they always end up quitting on us. And I was just wondering, seeing that you held that position a couple years ago, are we really that hard to work for?
No, you were really good to work for. I just had to quit so that I could come up here and have this job.
All right, thank you, and congratulations, and glad to see you here as a representative. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Representative Keither.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in opposition to House Bill 2155. I got a lot of bridges I could sell to a lot of people in this building if we put this bill forward. The releases, when a pollutant release occurs, the responsible person, parties are responsible for cleanup, et cetera, they aren't going to get reported. There was a big spill from the Turnpike Authority that affected a personal friend of mine's water in Douglas County. KDHE never even heard about it till the people finally went directly to them because the Turnpike Authority didn't say anything. And this went on for months, and I don't believe it's totally cleaned up yet. The fact that this is an ag bill, we're supposed to be seeing this as an ag bill, then why are One Oak and Cuyahoga even being considered in this? I don't understand that. And then down it says, well, most of the spill law revolves around transportation issues. What is it? Is it agriculture or is it transportation? And the concern is, I mean, if you think about animal waste, is there a definition to the size of animal and amount of animal waste? I mean, we have corporate hog farms in this state that have a lot of waste. I just think this it contains similar provisions to 2019 Senate Bill 153, which died in House Agricultural Committee. I'm not on the committee, but I am desperately concerned about our issues concerning water in the state of Kansas. It's one of the most precious things we have. And to let this go forward, I think is absolutely horrible, and it needs to go back, at least go back to the committee or just kill it. Just start over again and have an honest conversation. This is a bad piece of work. Thank you, Madam.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Fairchild, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and reports that we report HB 2155 favorably for passage.
You have heard the motion by Representative Fairchild to report HB 2155 favorably for passage. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. No. The ayes appear to have it. Division has been called for. The clerk will open the roll, and you may vote. Has every member had an opportunity to vote? Awerkamp votes aye. Wolfmore votes nay. Oh, yes. I thought I did. It didn't work. Do I say myself? Humphreys votes yes. Aye. Sywert votes aye. Vickers votes nay. What about Henry? Does any member wish to change their vote? Oh, sorry. The clerk will close the roll and take the tally. 85 voted in favor and 34 against. The clerk will record the vote. The vote passes. That was not a roll call vote, that was a division vote, just for the information of the body. The next item of business is House Bill 2151. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2151, the chair recognizes Representative Tim Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, there were no amendments from committee.
Okay, please continue.
I rise before the body to present House Bill 2151, which would create and amend law regarding our elder and dependent adult abuse multidisciplinary teams. This was requested by the Kansas Attorney General's office, came through the Children and Seniors Committee, and was set up because of the need to protect our elders and those that could face abuse in different ways, including financial abuse. It would create a coordinator who's required to facilitate the convening of an elder and dependent adult abuse and multidisciplinary team in each judicial district. Would include the sheriff of each county that's in a judicial district, the county or district attorney of each county or within that judicial district, Secretary of Children's and Family Service, Secretary of Aging and Disability Service, and long-term care. Would also allow for individuals such as a representative from law enforcement agencies, medical providers, legal services, housing providers or representatives, medical or coroners, representative of financial services in those cases when there was elder financial abuse, and other individuals deemed necessary. Each team then is to be required to coordinate within their jurisdictions. Multi-unit task force began in the 1970s under Clarence Kelly, Chief of Police in Kansas City, Missouri, went on to the FBI. The idea of bringing multi-talented individuals to solve crimes, and it works very well. We have at least one individual in our esteemed colleagues here who served in the Kansas City area as a chief of detectives in that area, and we know these units function well. So it would set this up so that in 2022, the Attorney General's office would then begin to give us the reports. We know that there were no opponents in our committee. We had proponent testimony from both the DCF, the OAG, and then a number of other agencies, including AARP, Disability Rights Center of Kansas, Kansas Bankers Association, Kansas Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence, Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Service, Kansas Department of Health and Environment. It was truly a bipartisan bill. The cost, based on the estimates, is that it would be roughly $97,000 total cost to the Attorney General. No idea on how it might impact cases that would go up because we have more district court cases. Small price to pay for support of our elders. With that being said, I would stand for questions.
Does any member desire to speak to the bill? The chair recognizes Representative Highland.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple of questions. Last night, I studied this bill thoroughly. And I would like for you to define for me what is the definition of both a dependent adult and an elder person.
An older and elder, is that correct, sir?
Elder person and a dependent adult.
Dependent adult. I guess I would say depends.
That's pretty good, but incorrect. According to statute number 21-5417, which is referenced in the bill, an elder person is one over 60. So the next question is, do you consider me an elder person?
Again, depends.
I understand that you in your past life, you've been both police officer and a teacher. Which one was the most rewarding?
I think law enforcement, I did 31 years. In those early years, you're young. I was going to save the world. I didn't save the world, but there's something special about helping people out there. So I would say criminal justice, but education has been wonderful. I've loved every minute of being a teacher.
You did a fine job. Welcome to the legislature.
For further discussion, the chair recognizes Representative Owsley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to thank the previous speaker for the entertainment here today. The carrier of the bill did a very thorough job of explaining what is in the bill. I'm not sure how late he stayed up studying last night, but I'd like to thank him for his work here at the well today and the brief history lesson. I would ask the body to support House Bill number 2151. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative Johnson, you may close.
Madam Chair, group, we make a difference here. It took me a lifetime to get here. And I feel like this bill is one that many of you came to support because you care about the people in your district. And so I would ask that we support this bill. And when the committee rises, I would recommend that we pass House Bill 2151 favorably.
Body, you have heard the motion by Representative Johnson to report House Bill 2151 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. The next item of business and last is House Bill 2125. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2125, the chair recognizes Representative Wheeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were committee amendments. I move the adoption of the committee report.
You have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes and the committee report is adopted.
Good morning, colleagues. House Bill 2125 concerns a situation that is not that infrequent when an original will is lost. Under current Kansas law, under KSA 59-618A, a copy of a will is prohibited from being admitted to probate. House Bill 2125 allows for a copy of a will to be admitted to probate when it is established that the original will is lost, and that it is also established that it has not been destroyed or anything else that would prohibit its admission. This bill also provides and changes Kansas law, which states that only an original will can be admitted, and once an original will is filed, it can only be probated 6 months after the death of the testator or the testatrix. This bill provides that when the original will is filed or a copy of a will is filed, it can be heard at any time. This bill has an amendment that the committee provided. There is a requirement that when filing a will, you must file an affidavit to establish the authenticity of that will. The amendment provides that when an original will is filed or a copy of a will is filed, the affidavit must state whether it is the original or a copy. I think that I can provide you with more information because there was one proponent to this bill before the committee. It came to the Judiciary Committee by way of the Kansas Bar Association and Mr. Timothy O'Sullivan, who is a recognized, one can't say expert under Kansas law. He's recognized and his reputation is excellent in the probate area. Let me read what he provided to the committee. House Bill 2125 would simply modify existing statute 59-618A to clearly provide that a copy of a will may also be preserved for later admission to probate in the same manner as an original will, subject to all applicable defenses otherwise applicable to such admission. Copies of a will can be admitted to probate, but the petitioner must rebut the presumption that the original has not been revoked, which would include by its intentional destruction. The current statute only refers to a will being preserved, not a copy. Not all that infrequently, the original will of a decedent has been lost. Many courts have permitted copies of wills to be preserved under the statute, but explicit authority to do so is desirable to remove any doubt in that regard. That is the fundamental substance of this will, so I stand for questions.
To speak to the bill, the chair recognizes Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The distinguished lawyer and legislator from Finney has provided a comprehensive and accurate description of this excellent legislation, and I urge your affirmative vote for HB 2125. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Wheeler, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I close. And Madam Chair, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports House Bill 2125 favorably for passage.
You have heard the motion by Representative Wheeler to report House Bill 2125 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. This concludes our general orders. The chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we rise and report.
You've heard the motion to rise and report. All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes.
The clerk will read the committee report.
Mr. Speaker, your committee of the whole recommends House Bills 2124, 2155, 2151 be passed. House Bills 2114 and 2125 be passed as amended.
Speaker recognizes Representative Humphreys for a motion to adopt the committee of the whole report.
Thank you. I move the adoption of the report of the committee of the whole.
You've heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. Speaker recognizes Majority Leader Hawkins for an original motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to House Rule 2311, I move that an emergency be declared and that House Bill 2114, 2124, 2155, 2151, and 2125 be advanced to that order of business, final action on bills and concurrent resolutions.
You've heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion passes. We will proceed to emergency final action. Since we've proven with rare exception that comedy is not the forte of the members of this body, let's do the thing that people sent us here to do and vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2114 by the Committee on Children and Seniors, an act concerning the legislature establishing the Kansas Senior Care Task Force, prescribing topics of study, membership, meeting requirements, records, and report.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2114. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Every member had an opportunity to record their vote. Representative Susan Ruiz votes aye. Representative Victors votes aye. Representative Blake Carpenter votes aye. Representative Hubert votes aye. Representative Miller votes aye. Representative Newland votes aye. Representative Alcala votes aye. And Victors voted aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Helgerson votes nay. Are there any further changes of vote? Seeing none, 113 having voted in favor and 8 against the passage of House Bill 2114, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2124 by the Committee on Education, an act concerning the healing arts, relating to healing arts schools, professional services performed thereby, authorization thereof.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2124. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Every member had an opportunity to record their vote. Representative Awerkamp votes aye. Representative Alcala votes aye. Representative Helgerson votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 121 having voted in favor and 0 against the passage of House Bill 2124, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2155 by the Committee on Agriculture, an act concerning the Department of Health and Environment relating to water and soil pollutant spill program penalties.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2155. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Representative Alcala votes nay. Representative Resman votes aye. Representative Hubert votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire? Oh, Representative Heiberger on an explanation.
Thank you for your patience, body. Mr. Speaker, I vote no on HB 2155 because it appears to exempt discharges of animal waste from combined animal feeding operations from liability or from regulation. Thank you.
Are there any further explanations of vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Helgerson votes nay. Representative Parker votes nay. Are there any further changes of vote? Seeing none, 85 having voted in favor and 36 against the passage of House Bill 2155, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action, clerk will read.
House Bill number 2151 by the Committee on Children and Seniors, an act concerning the Attorney General relating to elder and dependent adult abuse, creating a Kansas Elder and Dependent Adult Abuse Multidisciplinary Team Coordinator and Elder and Dependent Adult Abuse Multidisciplinary Teams, prescribing membership, duties, and powers, meeting requirements, providing for confidentiality of records, open meeting exemption, report to the legislature, requiring the abuse, neglect, and exploitation of persons, unit of the Attorney General to assist in multidisciplinary team investigations.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2151. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Every member had an opportunity to record their vote. Representative Blake Carpenter votes aye. Representative Landwehr votes aye. Representative Delperdang votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 121 having voted in favor and 0 against the passage of House Bill 2151, same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action of the day. Clerk will read.
House Bill number 2125 by the Committee on Judiciary, an act concerning the probate code relating to wills, allowing a will or a copy of a will filed within 6 months after the death of the testator to be admitted to probate at any time.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2125. Clerk will open the roll. You may record your vote. Every member had an opportunity to record their vote. Representative Miller votes aye. Representative Mosier votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing none, 118 having voted in favor and 3 against the passage of House Bill 2125, same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Committee on Insurance and Pensions recommends House Bill 2243 be passed. Committee on Corrections and Juvenile Justice recommends House Bill 2144 be amended. The bill be passed as amended. Committee on Corrections and Juvenile Justice recommends House Bill 2191 be passed. Committee on Education recommends House Bill 2302 be passed. Committee on Veterans and Military recommends House Bill 2020 be passed. Committee on Agriculture recommends Senate Bill 27 be passed. Committee on Agriculture recommends House Bill 2244 be amended. The bill be passed as amended. Committee on Taxation recommends House Bill 2143 be passed.
Is there objection to returning to that order of business, introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions? Seeing no objection, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2405 by the Committee on Appropriations, an act concerning retirement and pensions relating to the Kansas Public Employees Retirement System, authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds to finance the unfunded actuarial pension liability of KPERS, providing requirements, limitations, and procedures for the Kansas Developmental Finance Authority, Department of Administration, and State Finance Council pertaining to such bonds.
Change of reference. House Bill 2039 is withdrawn from the Committee of the Whole and referred to the Committee on Education. House Bill 2331 is withdrawn from the Committee on Agriculture and referred to the Committee on Commerce. Body, is there objection to returning to that order of business reports of standing committees? Seeing none, the clerk will read.
Committee on Calendar and Printing recommends on requests for resolutions and certificates that requests by Representatives Probst, Baker, and Tim Johnson be approved, and the Chief Clerk of the House be directed to order the printing of said certificates and the drafting of said resolutions.
Speaker recognizes the Majority Leader for a motion to adopt the calendar and printing report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move adoption of the calendar and printing report.
Heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The calendar and printing report is adopted. Are there announcements? Speaker recognizes Representative Tarwater for an announcement.
For all the commerce individuals, there's a change in agenda today. Before we work the unemployment bill, we will be hearing from the newest acting secretary of the Department of Labor. Thank you.
Representative Valdenia Nguyen will replace Representative Louis Ruiz on the House Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development Committee on Thursday, February 18th, 2021 only. Representative Brandon Woodard will replace Representative Elizabeth Bishop on the House Health and Human Services Committee on Thursday, February 18th, 2021 only. Representative Orr is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There will be Rural Caucus this afternoon, right after session. Tara Mays from the Hospital Association will be providing the box lunch. You can find that lunch at the north wing of the first floor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Johnson-Wyandotte County delegations, we still have 10 minutes left to join the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce on our Zoom meeting. If you haven't picked up your lunch from Let Us Feed You downstairs, please do so, and be mindful to thank your host for lunch today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. For Democrats, just remember, we don't have Thursday Summit, but we will have Thursday Summit next week as well. So just telling you so you can plan on your calendar. Thank you all. Good afternoon.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, Speaker recognizes the Majority Leader for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Body, as most of you know, Senator Bud Estes's funeral will be next Monday, and because we'll be pro forma tomorrow, I wanted to get some information out to you. The viewing will be Sunday, February 21st from 2 to 4 at the Buckland Funeral Home. And then the funeral will be at the Buckland High School Gymnasium on Monday, next Monday at 1 p.m. We'll be pro forma next Monday, so if you're going to go, be sure to let your chairs know that you're going to be gone. That way they can plan accordingly. Be sure to let your chairs know if you're going to go to the funeral. Mr. Speaker, I move the House adjourn until Friday, February 19th at 8:30 a.m. pro forma.
Body, you've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The House stands adjourned.